Hi. So this is going to be a bit of background on Lotus versus Borland, which is a key case about software copyright. One question that structures the debate over software copyright is whether software is better analyzed as a compilation, looking for originality in selection, coordination, and arrangement, or whether that's precisely where merger and savoir-faire are likely to be found for software, with originality instead in the ground level writing of code that only computer programmers would be able to interpret. Making things harder, given the constraints of interoperability, there can often be limited numbers of ways to do what you want to do, whereas there are many more ways to write a novel. You don't have as much freedom to break generic conventions in programming. As Ralph Sharp Brown said, surprise doesn't work as a method of computer programming. Computer programs are functional, but so are maps and charts. So we can't discount the possibility that copyright should apply to at least some aspects of computer programs, although as with maps and charts, some other aspects of them would be unprotectable. The deeper issue is that we aren't just concerned with authorial incentives, but much more directly with competition policy than in the ordinary non-software copyright case. Even maps and charts, certainly novels, have lots of substitutes, possibly an infinite number, and choosing one doesn't affect your choice of another, except in minimal ways by making you more likely to look for books by the same author. You probably won't read only books by one author. By contrast, using one computer program makes it more likely or even necessary for you to use others that work in the same way, use the same operating system, and so on. And you're unlikely to consume a variety of different programs that do the same thing. So this is what the Lotus 123 startup screen looked like. Here's a screen of it working. Here's another, the Quattro, looking very similar. This is actually how Multiplan looks. Multiplan is the predecessor of Excel. That's another market competitor. Looking at this might give you further insight into the court's decision. There aren't that many ways of doing it. Borland copies the selection, structure, and organization of the menu commands. This is a classic compilation, but the court decides that the menu commands are a method of operation, which is specifically excluded by Section 102 from copyright scope. The key point here is this means that even if there's creativity and originality involved in designing the menu commands, and even if there are an infinite number of other ways to do it, copyright is not available because it's a method of operation. One standard objection to this result is that it unfairly penalizes Lotus for being successful. The defense of the result is copyright is designed not to secure all the social surplus generated by new works to their creators, and methods of operation have enough public importance that we're just going to have copyright stay out. And maybe you can get a patent, maybe you can't, but that would be the way to go. Lotus also already received a reward by becoming the market leader. It had a lot of lead time to recoup its investment. So the court analogizes the menu to remote controls. But just to be clear, deciding that the interface is a method of operation is an all or nothing result. The interface is therefore unprotectable, whether it's a success or a flop, no matter how many alternative forms of organization there are. The other problem lurking underneath here is, if you agree with the court, why isn't the entire program just a method of operation? Indeed, every line of code that functions does something. It's a method of operating a computer. Maybe we could say there's something distinctive about the human interface for purposes of identifying a method of operation, so we wouldn't call every line of code a method of operation. But Judge Boudin's concurrence is troubled by the total exclusion of protection. He would rather use some principle like fair use or perhaps copyright misuse. He'd focus more on competition and Lotus's ability to exclude better programs from the market just because people are locked into using the Lotus menu from the sunk costs of learning it. And of course, you might wonder, if the menu is in fact creative, why shouldn't Lotus be entitled to maintain its market share? And the answer is that the market share has essentially nothing to do with the creativity, only with the utility of the program. If people found it easier to learn, or if it was not easy to learn, but they had to because it was the only thing on the market, and so they did, and now they're not going to waste that investment. Both of those things are not about the creativity. Um, and I will end with a question reserved by the court because it wasn't argued. And the question is, would the Lotus menus be copyrightable as audiovisual displays? So the definition of audiovisual works might seem on its face to encompass the display of the menu selections. And I'm going to ask in class, considered as audiovisual works, what aspects of the Lotus menus might be copyrightable? So I will see you then.